we're back again. Hope you noticed the increase in production values.
Russian lights. It does light up, but we
Really?
haven't got
we
the
haven't
cable.
got, we can't afford the batteries yet.
No. 18 months ago, which seems like a long time ago, we came up with the conclusion. Right, I think they should be the same price.
It shouldn't be cheaper than Z6ii.
No.
Same price.
Same price.
Because the benefits are equalled by the deficiencies.
Yes. The Z7 should be a similar price range to the Z6 because they both have different capabilities.
Yeah. Rather than one being loads better than the other. Benefit of experience, is the Z7 worth £800 more than the Z6?
Yeah, well, since using it, because I've used it for event photography, one of the used to. So I've got used to the different ways they work.
Used to, there's a clue there then, isn't there?
And I've noticed new things that I didn't notice in the first video after using them.
Right.
But yeah, for the purposes of the video, we're going to be saying Z6, Z7, but can we say that includes the Mark 1s and the Mark 2s?
I think so, yeah. I mean, we've touched on the differences between Mark 1 and Mark 2 in both cameras, really, which aren't that significant. So, colour difference.
Yeah, when doing event photography, you know, I'm using both cameras quite a lot in the same scene. And when it came to editing, I was having real strange difficulty pairing up the white balance. Why aren't they matching up? And after a test, I realised that the Z7 has a different colour tone to the Z6. These two photos were taken with exactly the same colour profile and the same white balance settings in develop. However, you can see the clear difference between the Z6 and the Z7. And now I've increased the saturation just to prove the point. And this is an outdoor example, and you can see the difference between them two here. The Z7 has a greener colour tone, accentuated the green colours, and the Z6 has a warmer profile.
That's obviously because they've got a different sensor.
Yeah,
that's what's leading to it.
But in hindsight, that would be that's a pain.
Yeah.
So if I've got a Z6 and two Z6s, sorry. So if I used both of them for event photography, it makes life a lot easier.
You spend half your time just
trying to make
sorting out that difference.
The continuity of look is important.
The next obvious difference between the two of them is the number of megapixels. Z7's got a lot more than Z6. Does that mean that you use one camera for particular types of photography?
Obviously 100% crop. You have a lot more, you have about 35% extra closer reach.
So when you're in Lightroom, you go 100%.
Yeah.
That's your Z7 is zoomed in more than the Z6.
Image quality now. So forgetting about the colour, does the one image look better than the other? I would say the Z7 has a crisper image, slightly, only slightly. The Z7 Power, you get an extra 35% crop ability, an extra reach with the Z7 because of the megapixels. You can also see the difference in colour straight away as well. Of course, you can crop in further with the Z6 than 100% to match it, so it's about 35%. And yeah, sure, if you look at the details, the Z6 is now softer because it's going beyond 100%. And of course, with the Z7, you can crop in even further, copy that 140% too, and that's when it starts to deteriorate more. You can even go try and match that with the Z6. You can see the sharpness has gone quite a lot now, but this is 200% on the Z6 and only 140% on the Z7. But do you need this level of crop ability? So testing dynamic range, same settings, obviously quite a dark image here, and voila, incredible really. +4 on exposure, and you have these images, both incredible really, you can do that. And can you see any differences now? Again, the colour differences are there, but sharpness and image quality look really good without cropping in. So cropping into the same point, they both look really good. You could note here that in some fine details, the Z7 is a bit more pixelated now because of the low light dynamic range. It's trying to find extra detail in the pixels here. But I noticed in the far corner, on the Z7, you can see raindrops. Now it could be coincidence that when I took the Z6 picture, a minute afterwards the rain had stopped, or maybe the Z7 can just see more extra detail here.
That's one of the first things I noticed, moving from a D750 to the Z6 3.5 years ago, how well, particularly, and I think the Z lenses are an important part of that, and how well you could crop in on that. So,
without cropping in, maybe if you put side by side, you get the Z7 file is a bit crisper, but how much sharpness do you actually need before processing if you've got perfect conditions. Because I've also noticed, because I've been doing a lot of bird photography, well, trying to, the conditions are never right. Because the more I crop in, the more I see the problems. So sometimes I end up coming out again, probably on par with what a Z6 would do, to make it look like a crisp, tack sharp image.
And this is without cropping in, and it looks a really nice image. So if you crop into 100%, you can see the problems with the image here, because I was shooting at a high ISO to try and capture this bird in flight. You could crop out a bit, even just something like that. That would be something like the Z6 would be able to do. And now it looks really nice. So this image was actually taken with the Z6 and in really good light conditions. So 100% crop, where you can see how really nice the texture is here. So one evening I managed to get some foxes and I couldn't get very close. So the Z7 has enabled me here, and it's okay, it's a bit soft, but it's a really nice image. And the Z6 would probably be about there, which is fine as well. It does make the image look sharper. And in some good conditions, the Z7 can really help you out here. And sure, you can start to see some pixelation in the shadow, but overall it creates a beautiful image, which with some editing creates something. Maybe the Z6 would probably be about there.
But the point is, it is quite fun sometimes to be able to crop in.
Yeah.
Say if you had a 24 lens on this, using the 4 megapixels, could you even say it's equivalent of a 50 because of the amount you can crop in? And then it comes to low light.
Yep.
So I've estimated about 10,000 ISO. Before that, the Z7 will have its better pixel density, if you notice that difference. After that, the Z6 starts to lead away because this is half the ISO power.
This is an extremely low light test now, maximising both cameras. So these pictures were taken in the evening, just before night time. So the Z6 on the left, 51,200. The Z7 can only go to 25,600. And you can see straight out of camera, a massive difference there. Of course, 100% crop is closer. So we can go back out about the same. A difference in night and day, you could say. So now I've put the Z7 to a similar exposure, and you can see the noise difference is quite a lot more now. So I've used noise correction on both the images now, and you can see the Z7 is still quite a lot worse off, but without cropping in, they both look fine. You can also see the colour difference as well. Now I've lowered the Z7 to 0.5 megapixels to see if it makes a difference for low light photography. It hasn't really. It has slightly less colour noise, and of course comparing it to Z6, the Z6 is much better still, even though they're on the same megapixels. Interesting test just to see. So with the Z7 I've reduced the shutter speed to 1/15, whereas the Z6 is on 1/40. And that's what you have to do with the Z7 to match the ability of the Z6 in low light.
It's the anti-aliasing filter, which is supposed to prevent or cut down amore.
Yeah, so that's
particularly on video. That's only really a video thing, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. So on Z6 you have that filter in, and in some circumstances it won't have that interference.
Yeah.
The Z7 doesn't have that because it would interfere with the quality.
Without it, it's supposed to be a bit sharper.
It's supposed to be a bit sharper. Again, I've never really noticed the difference in sharpness between the two, especially in video. This does have a crop factor, so when you're filming, it's cropped in a bit because it doesn't use the full megapixel of the sensor.
For video.
It processes them differently to the Z6, basically.
Okay.
So if you're doing video, you're much better off with the Z6 because it has the filter and it doesn't crop it in and doesn't process it.
Okay,
Complicated.
good to know.
Okay, now I've took the puppet indoors and I closed the curtains, so this is really dark, shooting at 25,000 ISO. And there's the Z7. Looks a bit more pixelated, doesn't it? And here we go, is the close-up. So you can see the Z6 is doing a bit better. If you look at the dark patches here especially, it's black and nice. I mean, it's still pixelated a bit, but compared to the Z7, it's really messy.
The low ISO, you can get 64 as a base.
64?
Okay, all right. Steady.
I've actually done a test I can show now. I've cropped in over 100%. I can't see any difference between. So you can't really tell unless you're going to crop in. Okay, well, obviously the ISO 100 is a bit brighter. There's hardly any, I can't see any difference there, really. Nothing in it.
So next one is the Z6 shoots at 40, I think, and this is Mark II specific probably, it shoots at 14 frames per second as opposed to the Z7 being 10.
Yeah, I've never used that because it's not my kind of shooting style.
So really, if you are shooting action photos, the Z6 is going to be more useful to you than, I mean, I think you've said to me in the past that for events, you much prefer the Z6 to the Z7.
Yeah.
For sort of all these reasons that we're going down.
Oh yeah, I change for events. If I do use this for events, I change it to a 26 megapixel camera.
Oh right.
Because
okay.
I don't need.
You don't need the huge
and it's just
sizes.
bigger file sizes, quicker to process.
Yeah. So the Z7 apparently has double the focus points.
Double the focus points.
Has that been a big thing in your life?
You can double your focus speed.
It hasn't been a big thing, has it?
I haven't noticed any difference.
No.
I've used them a lot and I can't tell any difference between the focus speeds between them.
What they need to do is not double the focus points, sort the autofocus out.
Yeah.
Here's it in real time. Okay, so you can see there, again, only a few frames in it. Let's track back. Okay, so yeah, the Z7 gets it there. About 2 or 3 frames afterwards, the Z6 gets it. And then they're pretty much identical after that once they click in.
Minus 4.5 as opposed to minus 3.
Low light sensitivity, so the Z6 has minus 4.5 compared to minus 3 for this. Right. So it should be able to focus better in low light.
Yeah. Can it focus better in low light?
No, I've noticed no difference between them. Maybe it balances out because this has more focus points, but the Z6 has lower light sensitivity, so maybe it's a draw.
Right. Marginal.
Yeah.
So then it's just down to the prices. It is 800. Z7 is still significantly more than Z6. Not as much as it was. The difference was £1,000 18 months ago when we first did a comparison. Yep. Now it's 800 quid.
Yep.
Z6 is definitely better than the Z7 at certain things. Event photography, low light photography, video. So unless you need those extra megapixels, you're not really going to be interested so much in the Z7.
No. And that's always a curiosity for people. Think, oh, it's almost £1,000 more. It must be such a better camera.
Yeah.
Not really. They're both specialists of different things.
And there is an element of sort of marketing psychology, isn't there, that people want to buy the best.
Yeah.
So and I suppose in the past I've been a bit guilty of that. You sort of
gearheads.
You don't want no, I don't want a cheap one. No. I want to get the best one.
Well, if you didn't have any, because we've got the used price list as well here, because a Z6 used is 900, Z6 I. A Z7 I is 1700, so that's still £800 difference.
Quid, yeah. 50. Well, that's almost double.
Yeah.
100% more.
Yeah. So if you didn't have any of these cameras and you wanted 1 or 2 of them, what would you get now?
So I have never been tempted by the Z7. Arguably, I'd struggle to justify the difference in price to go Mark II over Mark I. What would you do, Russell? You gearhead.
Well, that's the thing, I'm a gearhead, but sensibly I'd get 2 Z6 Mark Is because they're a bargain. Yeah. And put the money towards lenses. Yeah. Because lenses are transferable, right? Yeah. They're going to hold a value. You can put them on any Z glass. They're worth more investment than the difference in the bodies. And if you get a really nice, I mean all the Z lenses are good, but you get something like the 70 to 200 or arguably the 24 to 120. Yeah. It's just, there's something about those lenses that is worth paying for them. There we go. I hope this has been helpful. Have we missed anything out? Is there anything obvious that you use for this that we have missed out on? And what would you choose in today's market? Would you use a used Z7 I or a brand new Z6 II? A brand new Z7 II still. Yeah, well, yeah, for nearly £3,000. Well, that's the thing, compared to other brands like Canon and Sony, equivalent price brackets for the Z6 II, you can get something with a lot better software and with autofocus. They have autofocus that works. Okay, right. But, it's like sticky eye autofocus. So it's like having a Z9 in a Z6 body, and this is difficult now for these two bodies. Now I think they're way behind. I know this is 18 months I've had this, but compared to Canon and Sony equivalent now. That's why everybody's waiting and hoping for a Z8, I guess, to have that sort of size body, but with the Z9. Well, focuses. They are both excellent cameras. You can get great results with them, just not for. Don't expect autofocus to work in low light or even sometimes in daylight. we're just a bit frustrated with some of the features that they haven't really made work well yet.
Get it on eBay.
No, it's my Z7, powerful Z7.
Interestingly, the second camera we were using, after 15 minutes of filming, got internal condensation. And that's really strange, it happening so late after being inside from the cold. Does anyone have any answers to why this would be the case?